Right, you lot, hello, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. In today's video, I'm going to be covering the Premier League this weekend. Goals galore as far as I was concerned. Good to see a couple of competitive games. Good to see teams like Brighton getting a couple of goals on the scoreline, showing that the league's competitive all over the place. Even in games like where West Brom and the likes of Burnley lost, they were still scoring goals. Turns out West Ham Arsenal was the lowest scoring game so far. So unless Wolves and City pull something out of the bag, or Sheffield United and Aston Villa, as far as I'm concerned, we are the lowest scorers, but no surprise there. First game of the weekend was Everton-West Brom. Everton won 5-2. A positive game in terms of playing styles. Interestingly, Grady scored his goal, which was fantastic, driving from deep, having the composure to hit with his left foot for 20 yards. Exactly what West Ham need. But don't have, particularly with our counter-attacking style. Interestingly enough, I think in that first half before West Brom got a man sent off, Kieran Gibbs decided to smack Rodriguez in the face. If you can get behind Everton, if you can use pace, if you can get behind and allow Digne and their right back to push forward a little bit more, Coleman, I think you can get in behind and you can create chances. Obviously, once Gibbs goes off, that's really difficult. And I think when we watched them against Tottenham last week, when they've got Allan and Decore just sitting in front of that back four, Gomez playing as well, it's really hard to break Everton down. There are multiple teams like that in the league at the moment. Burnley's a good example where they'll just sit men in front and they're organised. But as we saw against Leicester, if you can break them apart with a little bit of width, attacking runs, inverted wing backs, you can get a result. Pereira scored a phenomenal free kick as well in that game. It's good to see from him. I think there's a lot of hype around him as a player. Coming up to the Premier League, it's obviously a bit more difficult, but shows his quality. Everton, the superlatives are sort of never ending. I think Ancelotti's done some really good business in this transfer window. Rodriguez scored a fantastic goal with his left foot again. I draw attention to the assist he had as well. Just that lovely little dink ball over to Richarlison. Calvert-Lewin has looked rejuvenated since Ancelotti's come in, and he's the striker I don't think a lot of Premier League fans would have expected to see, but his finishing, his aerial ability, he just seems to have that knack of being in the right place at the right time that you need as a striker. It was interesting to see in his post-match interview as well, him saying that Ancelotti said to him, "You won't get too many goals if you take too many touches." And I think with him taking over the goal scoring responsibilities, Richarlison now coming really off that left-hand side, but still creating, still posing a threat. I think Everton have got a lot of, I wouldn't say creativity, obviously I think that comes through Rodriguez, but a lot of athleticism, ability to get in behind defences now. I think they're going to cause some teams some issues this year. But a good performance from Ancelotti. Everton obviously in the top four. So a lot of people on Merseyside will be very excited at this point. Manchester United, Crystal Palace. Yeah, they lost, didn't they? Lack of creativity from Manchester United. There was no real energy in their performance. You think with the team with the likes of Paul Pogba and Fernandes, they would be unable to unlock them. But I've said this about Palace, and people do write Palace off. I don't believe going forward they're the best team, obviously, but I think Hodgson has them so defensively organised. They understand their roles. I thought McCarthy did really well in front of that back four. But I think United made it easy for him. I don't think they tried to move the ball quick enough. I don't think there was any runs in behind. I think the argument could be that, particularly for the first goal, Fosu-Mensah got done on that left-hand side and Townsend come in and Luke Shaw switched off. The wing-backs, the full-backs aren't good enough. I think when Wan-Bissaka comes in, obviously he's the better right-back, but that back line for Manchester United is poor. And then obviously I just think Crystal Palace took their chances when they had them. Obviously there's debate about the penalty. De Gea did come off his line slightly, but I'm not a massive fan of that rule. But Palace were positive when they had the chance to attack. They attacked pace. I think what we'll see is when the likes of Eze play more regularly, if they can bring in Benrahma, that link up between Zaha is going to cause some teams some real issues. Obviously, you've still got Jordan Ayew there. I think he's building a good team, Roy Hodgson. And I think that performance was really positive. I thought they were really good against Southampton as well, using their organisation. But now they're adding a little bit more attacking quality. Zaha seems to have stepped up to that mantle now, getting the goals. So I think if they can keep hold of him and they can add to it, they'll be a good team this season. But serious question marks over Ole Gunnar Solskjaer already, in my opinion. I don't rate him as a manager. I know he had a great run of form, but there are the same issues with that Manchester United team week in, week out, as far as I'm concerned. And there's no plan B either, which is it's a bit confusing for me as a fan. If I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, how are you going to switch up? How are you going to change it? And he just seems to go through the motions. Really brought Greenwood on. Van der Beek, no surprise he scored the goal. The most mobile, in my opinion, of those midfielders, got forward, was in the box. I think you'll see that a lot of him this season as well, getting in the box and pushing forward. I think he just adds energy, movement, versatility to that Manchester United midfield that they don't have. But yeah, if you're a United fan, you're thinking, where are we going to go this season? Because that was a really poor start. Going to have to talk about Tottenham's 5-2 result against Southampton. I really like Southampton. From the outset, I've said that Ralph Hasenhüttl hasn't playing a positive style of football, uses the wing backs. I think Danny Ings is a phenomenal finisher alongside Che Adams, who does a lot of the legwork and supports him. And there's that element of link up. I think there's some understated players within that team. I think Ward-Prowse is a great passer of the ball. Has good energy. Obviously, they lost Højbjerg, so they lost a little bit of steel. But I think Southampton, by and large, should do okay this season. But if you look at their results, losing to Crystal Palace wasn't a great performance. And Tottenham, and I think that the key similarity between both of those losses is their high line. They push way too high. And I think there are a lot of Premier League teams doing that. We'll see how Brighton have done it, but Southampton do try it. But they press with a high line entirely. And I think when we look at Brighton, and I'll speak about them soon, they sit with that back three. They're comfortable and they use the wing backs, but they've got that defensive solidity. I think Southampton are pushing their back four up quite high. And listen, I think Tottenham, I don't think have been massively impressive. I think they were poorer against Everton, who like to sit back and they're organised. I think when you've got the likes of Son, who can exploit that back line, I think Tottenham seemed in that second half as well to pass the ball a little bit quicker, which is I think what Mourinho wants from them. But they made it easy for him. But obviously Son's finishing was fantastic. Obviously his movement's great. I think we know this about him. I was actually more impressed with Harry Kane's vision, to be honest with you, dropping in deep and playing it over the top. Yes, okay, Southampton might have made it easy for him, but it's still impressive nonetheless. And I think Kane's adding that to his game, and he obviously got a goal. And what's concerning as a West Ham fan, but as a neutral, would be exciting to see is Gareth Bale being added to that mix. Obviously, he's got the number 9, so I don't know whether he's going to play up front, whether they'll maybe play him off the right and allow Son on the left and Kane down the middle. But I think particularly with Bale, if he's still got it in his locker, which I think he's got probably about a year, 2 years left in it, I think he'll have enough mobility, enough pace to get in behind defences. And I think when the likes of Son and Bale can do that, you give more space to Harry Kane. And I think Tottenham's attack becomes a little bit more dangerous. It's a good performance for them. Remains to be seen whether they can maintain that level. I think it was more to do with Southampton's high line, if I'm perfectly honest. You cannot take away from the attacking quality and the finishing ability of Son and Harry Kane's assists. Now, let's go to Chelsea, Liverpool. Liverpool 1-2-0. I didn't see much of the game. I've got to be perfectly honest, but I think obviously the clearing mistakes from Kepa would be really concerning as a Chelsea fan. Chelsea play, they push their wing backs really high, but I don't see enough from them to suggest that they are able to defend competently. And I think that's the constant issue. To play that system, that's fine. And I think on an attacking sense, Chelsea will be exciting this season. I think it was Werner's mobility. He won the penalty. I know he missed a chance, but he remains dangerous. He remains a threat. I think obviously that's a real positive addition. But they need to resolve the wing back issue. I know they've brought Chilwell in, so I'll be interested to see how he deals with that, because I just think Alonso isn't good enough in that position. The right back, I think Reece James has done okay, but defensively, centre defence, they're poor. You would look, maybe I saw it particularly with one of the goals, you've got Jorginho trying to sit. I don't believe Jorginho is a natural holding midfielder. Obviously, he likes to keep the ball and keep the tempo, but you'd like to see Kante in that position. From what I've seen, Kante tends to push further forward. So I think tactically there's some issues there. But listen, Kepa's at fault, in my opinion, for even both the goals. I know Christensen decided he was playing a different sport, taking Mane down. But, Kepa's absolutely just run out of his goal. And I'm not excusing Christensen because you can't do it, but to panic like that has to be kind of induced by the fact that Kepa's running full pelt to try and win the ball past his own box. So, and the second goal is laughable, if we're perfectly honest. Listen, I don't want to dig in that too much because they are human beings, but he's poor. The shots that he faces 9 times out of 10 he'll concede. He's got one of the poorest I think saved the shot rate or whatever it's called in the league. He'll be gone. Obviously, Mendy will come in. I think if you're a Chelsea fan, that makes a huge amount of difference, having a good goalkeeper. And I think maybe it will give confidence to the two centre-backs. It remains to be seen. Thiago Silva hasn't played yet. That could have a massive impact as well. I wouldn't panic too much if I was a Chelsea fan just yet. Yes, they've spent 200 million. Yes, there's a lot of pressure. The likes of Havertz haven't clicked into that second and third gear yet. But I just think... I think it will happen, but again, I think Frank got the benefit of the doubt last season because he was working with youth players. I think you have to probably give him a little bit of time just because he's brought a lot of signings in. They're going to have to blend into the style of play. But you would have to ask questions of Frank once you start to get past January, February, and if Chelsea are still struggling, it will be on him. So pressure's on. Special mention to Thiago Alcantara. Fantastic performance again. The passing range, the ability to dictate the tempo, his defensive work rate, which is massively underrated. He's going to be a huge player. And I think that was important for Liverpool controlling games. Sometimes be guilty of being incredibly attack-minded and offensive, and obviously their wing-backs bombing on, and, you've got the likes of, Salah and Sadio Mane. But ultimately, I think Thiago offers that reservation in midfield, keeping hold of the ball. It's important for Liverpool. It'll take the sting out of games. It's a really, really clever signing. And I'm interested to see what they do with Diogo Jota and, whether he can force his way into that starting lineup. But even Firmino's link-up play and assist yesterday was fantastic. So, you'd have to have massive reservations over that. Now, talk about Leicester versus Burnley. 4-2. I watched the game. Leicester were impressive. I know Burnley took the lead. It was a good goal from Chris Wood. And I think there might be question marks over Leicester's ability to defend from set pieces. Obviously, they conceded, a goal from a cross and then a set piece from Jimmy Dunn. But listen, they're fantastic going forward. Castagna is a real asset. I thought as well, special mentions to Dennis Pratt yesterday. He's one of the players that gets overlooked, but I think that midfield pivot when you've got, I think it's Pratt and Tielemans. Their vision's very, very good. They're good technicians. You've got Mendy's just sitting deep at the moment. I think the balance of Leicester's squad is a little bit off, which is why I think the performances have been good. I think once Ndidi moves back into that holding midfield role, you bring in a centre-back, which I know that they've been linked with. I think they'll start to impress as well. Maddison needs to get more games and start regularly. And again, I know Vardy didn't get sniffed, but good link-up play. Harvey Barnes took the mantle yesterday, was brilliant, can come in off that wing. He's got great finishing ability, creative, pace as well. It's good to see. As a young English man, ultimately he's going to possibly look to push for an England place, I think, if he can be consistent. I think Barnes has shown in the past, particularly over the past season, he has got that ability in his locker. I'm all for wingers that have got that natural pace and ability to link up, but the finishing ability is crucial, and I think he's got that in his locker even at this stage. So a good performance from them, some good goals. They'll feel very positive. I know that they're obviously top four now. Let's see what happens when this Europa League comes in, because I think this is going to challenge a lot of teams, particularly this season. Now, Newcastle versus Brighton. 3-0 Brighton. Incredibly impressive from them. I think Graham Potter's got it bang on. I think he did well against Chelsea, albeit he lost 3-1. But I think against Newcastle, he played how he needed to play. And I know that Brighton will stick to their principles, and that he's not going to be that manager that switches it up every week. But against Newcastle, when West Ham played them 4-4-2, they like to keep organised. That's the way to pull them apart. And you see in that attacking third, Lamptey bombing on, the left and the right back, creating width, but also allowing people like Trossard and Mopé to move, and that mobility between them. Even in the second half, they bring on Connolly. They've got options. They know their style of play. They can pull you apart. They can have late runners into the box. He's set up perfectly to allow complete mobility in that front three with, the perfect attacking balance. You could argue defensively, they weren't tested yesterday. I think Newcastle's, how can I put it? They didn't look to have a number 10 that could drift in and cause them issues and find spaces where they left them. I think possibly you could look at their back three and say that provides some, solidity. Newcastle just don't offer enough creativity. Wilson missed an absolute sitter in my book. I think that was the problem with Bruce. I think he thought he was going to see, a fairly easy team to contain, but I just think in Brighton's form, the pace that they attack with, Mopé's finishing ability as well isn't really spoken about enough. He got a few goals last season. I think he'll get more this season because it seems like Brighton are stepping it up in terms of creating chances, arriving into the box. They're a good team. They're a really good football team. And I think they're going to cause some teams some issues this season. I don't expect them, from what I've seen, to be around that, 15th to 20th place. I think they'll look to push on, and they have progressed, and they've brought in good signings. Ben White as well had a good game. I think he has another element to it. Getting forward as well. We know he's very good on the ball. He's good defensively. I think they're building a nice little team down there, and it worries me as a West Ham fan because we've lost, Newcastle comfortably beat us 2-0, and Brighton have just blown them away with a 3-0. So it is a concern. Obviously, we've got Wolves, Manchester City, and Sheffield United, Aston Villa. I have to say it's a Manchester City win for me, although I think Wolves can cause some problems. I think, albeit Manchester City's fullbacks like to get forward, I think the pace of the wing-backs for Wolves could cause problems in behind. You can't overlook Jimenez. I'm not too sure in terms of City's starting lineup, whether Ake starts, whether Laporte starts. I think that would be obviously the preferential centre-back pairing, because I think Jimenez is all over a fantastic striker, great in the air, great finishing ability, good link-up play, offers so much to that Wolves team. Yes, they've lost Jota, which I think is a huge loss. I'll be interested to see who they replace him with. They've lost Doherty as well down that wing-back. So I haven't seen enough of Wolves to really suggest that they've added too much in terms of attacking quality. Yes, they've brought in, I believe it's Silva. I haven't seen enough of him to suggest how that changes their lineup, whether they're going to be, I imagine Nuno Santo will stay very much with the style of play. But I am interested to see Wolves. I like Wolves. They're a good team, and I think they'll improve this season, particularly with the signings that they've brought in. Equally, they've lost some. But if they can replace them adequately, they're going to give some teams some serious issues. Sheffield United, Aston Villa. I don't know, really, to be fair. I mean, obviously, Aston Villa have brought some decent signings in. Traore from Lyon as a striker, tied Jack Grealish down, brought in Martinez. These are really solid signings, to be honest. I think Ollie Watkins is going to get a couple of goals this season because his finishing, his link-up play is very, very good. They've done it right, in my opinion. As a team that struggled last season, they've spent in the correct areas where they know they need to improve. I think we'll see the like of Douglas Luiz benefit from another season and improve in terms of his style of play, because I think defensively he's very good. Sheffield United, you know what you're going to get with them. They push them with their wing-backs. They look to create pressure. I think albeit they've been in the Premier League a season now, people know what they're coming up against. I think they'll always create chances. I'm interested to see the likes of Ampadu play. I want to see how he slots into that side. But again, I think Chris Wilder's kept with a very similar team. I know he's brought in a few reinforcements, but the style of play will be the same. I haven't seen too much in an attacking sense that suggests he's going to completely change what he wants to achieve. I think really and honestly, I think for Sheffield United to up that level, they do need someone who is very mobile up front, whose finishing ability is quite good. I know it's hard in this division to find someone of that quality for the right price, but listen, you have to trust him if you're a Sheffield United fan. You know what I mean? McGoldrick and McBurney do a fantastic job, not necessarily in getting a lot of goals, but in terms of their contribution to the play and their work rate, they offer something to that team. So it'll be a tight game. I might edge for Sheffield United. I think they'll look to bounce back from that Wolves game. They would have been really disappointed with that. I know Chris Wilder doesn't like to sit on his laurels. So, yeah, you know what? Interesting, Premier League weekends. We've seen a lot of goals go in. I think there's a lot of teams down the bottom that are starting to perform a lot better now. Teams that finish mid-table have strengthened, and they look to create a little bit more squad depth. And I think as well, you'd have to argue that Liverpool have improved. They are very shrewd signings. And obviously Tottenham bringing in Bale's going to add another element to it. So, I think we're going to see, particularly this season, a lot of goals from the teams. I think you've added quality into the areas that in positions are going to create more chances and score more goals. So hopefully West Ham can defend against it, because it's going to be a tough one. But that was my Premier League roundup. Any comments you have, put them in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe. Loads more coming this week. We're going to do a preview for the Wolves game. Going to have Talking Wolves on as well. View from the opposition. Moaning if and obviously we'll be doing a watch along this Sunday. So until next time, take care.